I am going to do the first peer assignment with you. This is modify the chaos program so that the user determines the number of values to print. So, first thing I'm going to do is open idle. So, and I want, you probably will have slightly different choices because I haven't updated my Python. So let me bring this down. Where is the idle? Should have come up. There it is. So in the idle, I am going to start a new file. Okay, and what I'm going to do with this new file is I'm going to type in the chaos program that we're going to modify. And it is on page 13 of the edition of the book. So first thing I'm going to do are some comments. Comment starts with a pound sign. And I'm going to say this is peer assignment 1. I'm also going to say that what it is, it's going to modify the chaos program to allow the user to set the number of values to print. I'm going to break that line. I'm going to say my name, and I'm going to put the date, which for me, I'm doing this during the summer still, but 8/21/2019. Now I want you guys to be able to do this too. I want you guys to always put a header on your programs, even the peer ones. All right, it's a good habit to get into. So I am going to use the example on page 13. So I'm going to do a function. We'll talk about functions a lot more later. Main is a special function. It's a function where a program starts. So when you do in Python, def is what defines the beginning of a function, and then main is the name of the function. The colon tells you that the rest will be the body. Notice how it's indented. Python requires that all of the elements of a block be indented. The indentation is absolutely crucial. It'll not work if you don't indent. So I'm going to print. Print again, we'll just do some output. I'm going to say this program, except I need to put it in quotes. Doesn't matter if it's single or double quotes. This program illustrates a chaotic function. So we've got that in there. I'm going to close that. There's no semicolons or anything. It's not happy because I did a single quote when I started with a double. Okay. So now when I press enter, it goes back to where the print was. This is an assignment. X is a variable. It could be anything. You could write anything there. X is just what they chose as a variable. And what it is it stores or a value or shows you where it's substitutes for a value that's stored. And the value that we're going to get is one that the user will enter. We use eval input. Now what the eval does is it evaluates the input to determine if it can be a number. You do not need to use eval if you're just entering words. But if you're entering a number, you need to use it or other things, which I'll show you later. This is the prompt. Enter number between 0 and 1. Okay. And then I'm going to do a colon and a space. A couple spaces. The spaces is to give room for the number so it's not rammed right into the prompt. Okay. Oh, and then what is it? Oh, another parentheses. Okay. Things that'll drive you crazy, making sure all your parentheses are right, making sure you have your colons right, making sure things are indented, quotes. Typically, these are the kinds of things that cause problems. I'm going to do a for loop. So I'm going to do for I in range 10. All right. So this is a loop, but it's also a block, so it has its own colon, and its indentation is even further in. I'm going to say x, which is our variable, but we're going to reassign it a value. We're going to say 3.9 times, so times is always the asterisk, times x times, and then in parentheses 1 minus x. So a couple of things. The order of operations says that the 1 minus x will happen first, and then it'll do 3.9 times x, and then times the result of that. And then we're going to print. So we will print x. Now, this function won't run if we don't call it. And that's what this next line does. Main calls the function. I also need to save this. So I'm going to do save as. I am going to go to my documents. Do I have a Python? I have a 110 Python folder. So I'm going to open that folder, and I'm going to save this as peer exercise 1. And we'll do dot. We actually don't have to do .py because it will add that. Save. All right, and now we can run it. So I'm going to run the module. Oops, I'm missing a parentheses. I am indeed. X has to be in parentheses. So you can see a little bit of the debug there. It'll tell you sometimes when an error. So now I need to save again. And now I will run it. Run module. So it says to pick a number between 0 and 1. It gives us our two print options. So I'm going to say 0.3, and then I will run it, and it gives me the 10 values. All right, so our task is to change this program so that the user can set the number of values that are printed out. Notice these are just comments, so these don't actually do anything. Our def main defines the function. Our print line basically just prints out a description of what's going to happen. This assigns a variable, it prompts for the variable, and then assigns the result to this value. And then we do our loop. The loop is where we can change how many values print out. If I were to change this to 5 and save and then run again, and then I'm going to do 0.2, notice it only printed out 5 times this time. So this is where you determine how many values to print out. If we want the user to control that, I mean, they could always just come in and reset the number there, but it'd be much more effective if we created another statement like this input. So I'm going to say count. I'm going to call it count as a variable. Again, a variable name can be anything. It should really be something that means something when you look at it. It's a way of documenting the code. So I am going to do eval, because it is the number that we're looking for, input, and then I'm going to say enter the number of values you want to output. And again, I will do a couple of spaces, close the quotes, and then close the two things there. Now, here, instead of 5 or 10, I'm going to put our number count. So whatever number we put here is how many will be output here. I'm going to save again. All right, and let's run. So I'm going to run the module. So I'm going to enter a number between 0 and 1. So I will enter 0.3 again. And for the values to output, I'm going to just put 7. And if we look, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If we were to run the program again, I'm going to run it. So I'm going to put in, let's do 0.3 again. And I will say that the output should be 4. And notice that it outputs 4. So this is the solution to the first peer exercise. What you should do in Canvas, I don't know that I can do this right now. I'm going to change my settings on Canvas. I'm going to do student view. And what I'm going to do is going to do peer assignment 1. And I'm going to submit the assignment. So there's a couple of things you can do. You could submit the PI file. So if I were to do a file, I could do browse, and I could go to 110 Python or wherever you want to put it, and I could do the peer exercise 1. I could do open, and I could upload it. It also works if you do text entry where you just paste it in. So then you would go to the exercise, copy it. So Control A, Control C, and then you could paste it in here. The only thing with that is you tend to lose, you might lose your indents, but I will usually do that. If you wanted to put it on GitHub or somewhere, you could just give me the URL. You could also do a link to a Google Doc or something. So I'm going to cancel. Well, I guess I will do this one. I will submit the assignment. So now again, anytime you make a mistake and you want to correct it, you can resubmit the assignment. Okay, so I think that's it for the video right now. I'm going to stop it.